Hey everyone, it's your girl Akasha. Welcome back to the Self-Illumination Podcast. I'm super stoked to have an illuminating conversation today with Jana Rife, who is the founder and creator of Hanalei SUP, or I should say Hanalei Bath. And then she also owns Hanalei SUP, and she's an amazing yoga teacher, SUP teacher. She's also a aromatherapist. And instead of me trying to tell you about all of her awesomeness, I'm going to let Jana tell you about it and her healing journey about how she's woven all of these amazing things that she does into this lifestyle that's not only full of her own healing, but helping others heal in a way that is what I perceive on the outside as really fun. So I'm excited to talk with Jana today. Thank you so much for being here, Jana. And I just love you. I just
Thank
love
you.
your energy. So tell me, let's just kind of dive in. So like how did you get started on this healing journey? Because if I remember correctly, you had like a full-on corporate job, you had your 9 to 5 going on. So how did you go from like that to aromatherapy and yoga and meditation and all these stand up paddleboard, all these amazing things that you do, that for me, when I see them, I'm like, that girl is living right, she's doing the fun things.
But I did do my time for sure. So I would say, interestingly enough, I think it probably started in high school. I was a dance major in a performing arts high school, and my dance instructor was actually a yoga instructor. And at the end of class, she would always do guided meditations, or she would do some form of yoga for us. And she would invite us to her yoga studio, but unfortunately, yoga didn't really stick with me at that time. So, fast forward, I was living in Arizona, and I had a little health issue, nothing major, but enough to, you know, be uncomfortable. And I could not seem to get it resolved with doctors. So I was living near a Whole Foods, and I was hanging out at Whole Foods in their beauty section. And I found this book, it was about natural healing. And so I bought it, and it mentioned essential oils. This was in the 90s before essential oils were popular. And so I started buying essential oils, making different blends, and I became hooked. So I started making products. I was working retail at the time. I would make my products and bring them into the store. And I had a happy spray. So anyone that was in a bad mood, I'd spray them.
I love it. And I love that still to this day. Like, I know that Whole Foods is now owned by Amazon, but I love that they didn't take away that natural care and like natural medicine area, because like legit through most of my life, every time I go into a health food store, that's like kind of how I qualify if it's a for real health food store, is like, what's going on in your natural care section,
Yeah.
right? Because it speaks to a level of education of your local area. So I love that you were just drawn to already the alchemy of like healing yourself, right? Because it is such a personal journey.
Mhm. So with aromatherapy, I dabbled in that for a long time, and bought books. And it wasn't until I moved to Georgia that I did get my aromatherapy certification. And from that, I got some other certifications in aromatherapy, diploma in aromatic medicine, and just kept diving deeper and deeper. And of course, started Hanalei Bath in 2012, and I make soap, body butter, bath salts, aromatherapy blends, roll-ons, sprays, number of different things.
And I'm just going to do a plug here for Jana. Her facial oil is the only oil I use on my face. I love it so much. I sell it on my website, akashacrc.com. And I am telling you, I could drink this stuff. I keep teasing her to make me a whole bottle of it for my body because my face loves it, and it's the best shit ever. And her prices are insane. So please check her stuff out. Okay, let's dive back in here. So, and you also, like, you've helped me so many times on my journey. when my late husband was passing with a grief blend, which was like out of sight awesome. When my little dog Biscuit was dying, you made me a hydrosol that I know worked. And then a blend to rub on his little body so he wasn't in pain. I know it worked. Every time I used it, he felt better. Like it was evident. You could just see him relax. I mean, guys, Jana legit has a gift. So I really hope that after this, listening to the podcast, you'll, do me a solid and check out her awesomeness. So the aromatherapy, like you really dove deep into that.
Yeah, yeah, I really love it, and those blends I made for you, they're really, the grief blend definitely was an intuitive blend, and
Yeah.
the blend I made for your pup, I had, a pup that was in really bad shape, so that was a blend that I used on her, and I knew that it would work on your pup too. So it's just something that I definitely enjoy and continue to expand on. And then the other part of my journey, of course, is yoga. And I, when I was in corporate, which was super stressful, I was a runner, and that's how I would deal with with the stress. And I had some things happening to me, and I didn't know what was going on. I was going to the doctor, and the doctors kept saying, "You should do yoga." And I thought, why do I need to do yoga? I already exercise. I saw yoga as exercise. And I thought, I'm a runner. I don't need to do yoga. And I thought, how could that help me? So I heard it 3 times and I thought, okay, I better try it again.
Something to this. If the universe has brought it in 3 times, I'm listening.
So I thought, okay, I better go back to it. So I took a couple yoga classes, and of course, after yoga, you're so calm. The shavasana, just the whole experience, right, just really, really took me down a notch. And I realized after going to a few classes that it definitely helped me with my anxiety, my depression. Just really, really helped get me through a lot of stress that I was dealing with. So I continued doing yoga, and I had a yoga teacher say, we have a yoga teacher training, you should do it. So I signed up for the 200 hour, and I went through my 200-hour teacher training. That was a 9-month course. And in the middle of that, I had flown to Hawaii. I learned how to paddleboard, which I wanted to do for a while. Loved it. That was life changing, that experience. I paddled up the Hanalei River and the Hanalei Bay, and it was just totally life changing. So that was in Kauai. And then 6 months later, we went back to Oahu, and I took a SUP yoga class, yoga on a paddleboard. Again, incredible experience. I felt like it was totally life changing for me. Came back home, continued through my yoga teacher training, and in November, I basically quit my job, quit my corporate job, kicked my laptop to the curb, and then in January flew down to Key West and got my yoga teacher certification. Also got my World Paddle Association Class 1 instructor certification. Came back home. That was in January, in the January 1st of February. April, I graduated with my 200 hour. And then by May, I started my Hanalei SUP yoga business. And
Oh,
so,
that's so like you clearly were doing what was lighting you up. You were divinely led, flying to Hawaii, which is just I lived in Hawaii for almost a decade. It's such a beautiful place. I think everyone needs to go there many times. And, getting on that board, what was that like? Do you remember the moment where you were like, this is my jam?
mhm. Yeah, so just standing up feels amazing. And
Yep.
standing up, you feel like, oh my God, I can do this. And then we paddled, and it was the most incredible scenery, paddling up the river and seeing all of the floral and the mountain, and just, it was an incredible sight. And we did that, I think, for probably about 2 hours. And then the SUP yoga was incredible because you're doing yoga, doing sun salutations towards Diamond Head Crater, and you have fish. The water was crystal clear. You can see the fish below you. You have the sun in the sky above you. I mean, it's like a dream come true when it comes to a floating studio outside. So it was definitely an amazing moment.
Well, and I love, I had said this earlier when we first started talking, that when I look at your photos on Instagram, and I'm doing your retreats in October. I'm so pumped about that in Arizona. I'm just like, oh, I'm over, because I love Arizona. I love the paddleboard. I love being on the water. I love the desert. It's got like all the things I love. And I think that's probably what I loved about Hawaii, is there are parts of it that feel like this desert island, but then you're surrounded by all this water. It's just such a magical place. And then you get on this board and you're responsible for paying attention to how you're moving and how you're standing, and you're outside in I don't know, there's just some kind of alchemy about that that's just so beautiful. And what I love is when I look at the things that you're doing, your joy is so evident. And I just think that's just such a great thing to witness from any arena in your life. And so what I'm really curious about is, when you reflect on like what started you on your healing journey, and then the things that you kicked that laptop to the curb, as you said, and you started Hanalei SUP, like what was kind of like your internal dialogue like? Were you like, oh shit, what am I doing?
All the time. But I just knew from so thank God for the 200-hour yoga teacher training, because seriously, it gave me the courage to do it. And it's also it was you go through this training and you're kind of peeling back the layers, and I really realized that in that job I was doing a lot of things that were not me. It was not something I wanted to do. It was just not true to me. So I decided that I was just going to follow my heart. My gut told me I was doing the right thing. And I knew that I was somebody that was very driven and a hard worker. And I would tell my husband, I'm like, you just have to trust me. I'm going to hustle and I'm going to make it work. And of course, it was challenging, at first, to get a business up and running and to leave your steady income. But I just knew that I was doing the right thing because it felt right. It felt good.
So you really recognize that you were not in balance for your inner compass, right? Like it was a little off. And it sounds to me like it started with this health issue that got your attention with the aromatherapy, and then as that started unfolding, you started realizing that, whoa, I'm living a life that isn't in alignment with who I really am.
Mhm.
So what really allowed you, do you have a moment where you felt like you were able to pull off that mask? Like how did that come about, where you were like, no, I'm this person who is here for this and I am not here for that. Like what was that like?
I just makes that comment just makes me think of when I kicked the laptop to the curb and I drove off, and it was seriously like this giant weight was lifted off of my shoulders and a whole new life. Like now I can live the life that I want to live. It was I just let go of all of that crap, and now I can be me. And it was like the best moment of my life, honestly. Scary as hell, but seriously the best moment of my life.
I
So
feel like the best moments usually are full of lots of the scary. It's kind of, I think everyone wants those best moments to be, like super smooth and like, like a pond, like smooth, still waters. And it's like, well, if there's smooth, still water, there's really no fire element going on there. And then fire is our friction or the motivator. I mean, why do you think we have this metaphor of light a fire under your ass? Right. So what I'm really, I go back to all the awesome things that I see you share, and all the beautiful places that you teach, and experiences that you're sharing with people. And I kind of want to know, like, when you do the reflective process and you look back at Jana, 15 years ago, and you look at Jana now, like your happiness is evident, right? But in your inner mental state, your heart space, like, how do you feel about what you've created? Because I think it's flipping magic.
Good day, I freaking love it. I do feel like I'm living the dream, definitely. I did put in the time and effort for sure. I feel like I was in the trenches for quite a while, and I have been working towards this. Um, and I feel like it's taken a little bit of time, probably more than, what I had hoped. But yeah, I mean, I love it. And I told myself, so that day that I drove away from work after quitting, I told myself, I'm never going to do anything that I do not want to do because I felt like I stayed in that job longer, obviously, than I should have. And I did something that I didn't want to do. And I felt like I was there, not so much for me, but I felt like I needed to stay in that job or I needed to make somebody proud or this or that. And so leaving that job, I thought I'm not going to sign up for anything that I do not want to do. I'm only going to do what brings me joy. And so that's what I do.
And it sounds like you had a massive paradigm shift like that. And I always love it when people can hear that that's possible, because some people think that change has to happen over this long period of time, and some people think that change, that it's pretty polarizing, and I think it's dependent on your experience and your desire. And it
Mhm.
sounds to me like, your inner Jana was like, deuces, I've had enough. So now I'm really curious, if you don't mind sharing with the listeners, like, what's something that you do every day to continue to facilitate that joy? Like, how do you keep that joy, up here, as opposed to being a business owner? Some days there's some stuff that's not so joyful.
You're right. Yeah. And I would like to say that I paddleboard every day, but obviously I don't. But what I do every single day is I get up in the morning and I walk my dogs first thing. And even if I don't feel like it, even if it's raining, if it's bad weather, it doesn't matter. Those dogs, they they want their walk. And so I enjoy spending time with my dogs and they make me laugh. And I have 3 Newfies and they're all about 120 pounds. And so I walk these 3 dogs all at the same time. And I know my neighbors are probably like, oh my God, how does that little lady manage
Yeah.
this?
And for those of you listening that don't know Jana, she's like so petite. And these dogs are so huge. So three of them at one time, I'm sure they're like, whoa.
You. But so I enjoy spending time with them. We take a walk in the morning and I do a little training session with them. I'm always trying to train them. I have one that he is still kind of a puppy, he's 16 months old. So he's a big, goofy puppy. And then I have one that is super smart. So I'm always trying to challenge her with training. And then I have another one that she is a therapy dog in training. She works with the military. And so just trying to keep her trained as well and keep her interested in some different things. So they're all three very different. And so that's one thing I do. And of course, that's movement. And movement always brings me joy, whether it's yoga, walking, any type of exercise. So that brings me joy too.
That's so awesome. And then tell me, one of the things that I'm really curious about for you is how you continue to weave all of these things together. Like, how are you bringing the aromatherapy into your classes, and how are you, bringing all of the amazing things that you do together to create this magical life that you've created for yourself?
So when I have clients in a SUP yoga class, I do cold compresses. I freeze them, and before I freeze them, I soak them in a blend that's called Oil of Tranquility, and then I freeze it and take them to class. And when they're in shavasana, I paddle around and give them a cold compress that they can put on their forehead or over their eyes or on the back of their neck if they're hot. And so that's one way that I am sharing my aromatherapy with them. And then on my retreats, I usually give everybody a goodie bag of my products. So usually a soap is in there, a lip balm, and sometimes, a spray or whatever, depending on where we go, what we might need for that retreat. So I share the products that way. And then, of course, I have an Etsy site. I have my products in the Cotton Mill Exchange, and I also do wholesale for VSOP in Norcross. It's a olive oil tap room.
Awesome.
Use olive oil to make soaps, and a lot of times they're custom to whatever his blends and flavors are in the olive oil. So he's got some really cool soaps over there that we've created together.
That is so cool. And I've already talked about the facial oil, so I might as well like spin it on the soap too. It's pretty much the only soap I use. It's kind of funny. Like, but I had this idea when I knew we were going to be talking today. I went into the bathroom and looked at like my little stack of soaps and I was like, gosh, I think it's been like years since I've used a different type of soap. It's crazy. Like clearly I'm fully invested in Jana and all the awesomeness that she brings to the table. So Jana, another question that I have for you is, as you're bringing all these things together and we're talking about how you were solidly in the corporate world. Like if someone were going to ask you like how do you start to make that switch, what's some advice that you would give them if they wanted to literally, I say live their bliss, or I think your language for it was stop doing something that you didn't want to do anymore, because life is so short. We all say that, but I think something that happens is everyone kind of puts it off for later because they keep doing the things they don't want to do. And I'm really curious, as someone who kind of like, grabbed those bootstraps and said, I'm walking out of here. Like, what's some advice that you would give the listeners for that?
The biggest thing is life is too short, and there might not be a later, so you have to do it now. And a lot of times I see my clients or my friends will say, even with like paddleboarding, well, I'm going to wait until I lose 10 pounds, or I'm going to wait until my kids grow up, or I'm going to wait until this, wait until that. They keep waiting. And I actually have a friend who is still in the corporate world, and we used to work together, and she is miserable, and I've been trying to kind of coach her into leaving too. And I told her, you have to like really find out what is going to make you happy. What do you want to do? And then turn that into a job. So she might wring my neck for saying this because I'm not supposed to tell anybody, but she is getting her pilot's license.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, it sounds to me like doing even in the thing where you're maybe not so passionate about it, right? We have all this language in our culture about like, that's my day hustle, or that's this, or that's that. But it's like, if you don't know who you are, you haven't spent any time with that, and I think that I think that's one of the hugest gifts of yoga and meditation and mindfulness, and especially on a healing journey, right? Because you have to be listening. If you're using essential oils for healing, you have to be paying attention to, is this working for me? Like, how is this? And as you start peeling off those layers from other people's expectations, and then you start listening to what is or isn't in resonance with you, don't you feel like what starts to happen is you start seeing the bigger picture of your life and you're like, I'm done with that. I'm done with that. I feel like it starts helping you set boundaries, don't you think?
Totally. Yes.
And I think that that's something that a lot of people, struggle with. I'm probably going to say this in every single podcast, but all of us are so programmed to do what produces results in order to feel valued, aka this is how we get love.
Mhm.
And we're so programmed that we don't even realize that that's actually the opposite of how it all really works.
Yeah.
So, I love that you come on here today and shared with everyone about how you kind of took the reins of loving yourself more than loving being a cog in a wheel, a corporate wheel. Because at the end of the day, no matter how high level you are in a corporate position, if you don't own that business, you are replaceable.
Mhm.
And you have to look at like what you're doing in that corporate business and what it's bringing to your life. What value is it bringing to you? And I think that's where a lot of people, in a corporate job, they don't think about like what value it's bringing to them, because they've all been taught, I bring the value to the business and then I get the paycheck. That's the value. And what I love about this conversation that we're having is that you made a conscious decision to move beyond the monetary value.
Yes.
And I think that that's something that, I hope the listeners get from this today is that you were able to, what is that saying? Leap and you'll grow wings. Right. And you trusted yourself and you were honest with your husband about like, hey, I just need you to trust me. My language for it is I know this looks a little crazy, but I got this. So if you don't mind, will you tell everyone one more time, like all the places where they can, like your IG, if you're on Facebook, all the things that you got going on, if you have any spaces left in your retreats, please tell them about that too, so that they know how to get in touch with you. And then those of you that are listening or watching, if this is on YouTube, I'll put all these hyperlinks at the bottom. So you'll be able to connect with Jana through all of her multiple platforms. But just so we have it recorded one more time.
Okay, so HanaleiSupYoga.com. So HanaleISupYoga.com. And from that, you can get to my scheduling page to see all of my classes. My retreats are on there. We do have a spot available in the Costa Rica retreat in June. If anyone wants,
Awesome.
yeah. So that's for SUP Yoga. And then I have Hanalei Bath, which is HanaleIBath.com. And that will take you right to my Etsy shop.
Which there's so much good stuff on, by the way.
And then Instagram, Hanalei Bath on Instagram. And then for me, it's Jana Hanalei. So my first name and then the first name of my business. Hanalei.
Awesome. And I can tell you that Jana Hanalei is just so fun to follow because you get to see all of the amazing places where she's doing her amazing things. And it's just really, I kind of feel like I'm a little bit of a creeper on Jana's page on IG because I'm like, ooh, do I want to go there? Where is she right now? Can I just lay on the board and paddle with my hands and look at the fish? Well, Jana, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for sharing all of your awesomeness. And hopefully those of you listening have found this to be illuminating in some way, knowing that no matter where you are and where you want to be, it's just one choice away. And the key is you just got to decide what lights you up so that you can step into that fully with your whole heart and get out of that veil of doing what's expected of you. So as always, to everyone listening and to you as well, Jana, stay illuminated and I'll see you back here soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.